Hello and welcome to Subject to Change, a sustainability podcast. We're here with Lisa Whitehead.
All right, now I can hear you, I think.
Yay!
Okay.
You can hear my birds chirping in the background.
It is a beautiful day there. Look at you. How are you? My God, it's so good to see you.
God, it's been a decade.
Intriguing in a snippet of research.
Yeah. Well, Lauren, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this discussion. I did just a tiny snippet. We like this to be as free flowing as possible. So I did just a little bit of research so that I would know who I was talking to. So I'm excited because your work seems fascinating. I have a lot of questions.
Oh, good. I can't wait. Great.
Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. When you see the little microphone in the lower right, click on that to learn more. We're so glad you're here. Vintage.
First, I want to say that is an awesome painting, backdrop, tapestry, whatever. I can't tell what it is, but it's so beautiful and striking.
I buy vintage fabrics on eBay.
I thought that's what it was.
Yep. This is Marimekko from 1960. Let me see. It's a Marimekko piece of fabric I got on eBay. No, it looks like 1971. 1971. And I just get I buy the stretchers at the art store and staple it, and it gives me a nice big piece of art. That's like, oh my God, that's probably 4.5 feet square, I think.
That's great.
Yeah. So thanks. Thank you.
I love it. It's striking. I have an orange panel of like a tapestry fabric, not tapestry, a thicker like upholstery fabric.
Sure.
That's on a screen in our living room, and I've used the leftovers. I keep making new Kindle covers, but they're always the same material because I like the material so much. So I just make a Kindle cover and then it wears out until I can't use it anymore, and then I make another one that's exactly the same.
I have to remember remember you made us little Christmas ornaments?
Yeah. I still do that.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm up to like 15 or 16 different designs so far.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
I'm so glad you remember that.
Of course.
The U.S. Green Building Council.
Now, how do the two of you know each other? Through USGBC?
Yeah. So in 2008, I saw, God, I don't even know where it popped up, but like almost like an advertisement. They were USGBC was looking for organizational development consultants in the Northeast. And I've been self-employed since I was 23. So I've been through so many recessions. I can't tell you. I started my company in 1986. And so when 2008 came, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do now? So when I read what they were looking for, plus I've done a ton of nonprofit, like everything you can imagine as a volunteer, national and local. So I'm reading it and I'm like, I can do this.
So did she know?
Yeah. So Amy King, you remember Amy King, of course. Yeah, I'm still connected to her.
Oh,
so
she
was the one who interviewed me, and I was like, Amy, tell me what some of the problems are you're trying to solve for. And so she told me, and I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. So anyway, I was very fortunate. She hired me, and it was a 1-year gig. And then at the end of every year, they kept renewing it. Anyway,
and it was one of the best things USGBC ever did was to have that level of facilitation and awareness of the complexity of communication and existing structure and transition. You shepherded us through so much, especially Upper Northeast Regional Council.
The regional council.
Your guidance there was especially vital.
Yeah.
Can you be especially vital? Was vital.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Vivaciously vital.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I like vivaciously vital. That's right. Whole dynamic governance, kind of layering discussion and the strong personalities at that level. I think that there was a lot of stuff going on in New York, but it wasn't as let's say potentially fraught as it was in the Upper Northeast as a whole.
As a whole, yeah. Interesting personalities. That's a good way to put it. But so many great people like Tom Good from Vermont. Oh my God.
We got to find a better term.
I love him. And I still to this day, because I remember the very first meeting I was facilitating, I had put up a piece of, flip chart paper. I said, okay, this is our parking lot. Anything that comes up, we need to track, but, would take away from our agenda. We'll just write it here. Tom goes, Lisa, you can't call it a parking lot. It's a bike rack.
Bike rack.
And I'm like, of course it is. And so to this day, I always have a bike rack for my meetings, and I explain. It's a bike rack.
Must have infiltrated New York for sure, because I remember at our meetings we had a bike rack.
Bike rack. Yeah. Who else I saw recently chatted with is Jackie Henke. Remember Jackie?
Oh,
Massachusetts.
good. She's like wellness for Coca-Cola Company.
Big, huge. Yeah. A workplace experience for Coca-Cola. Global workplace experience.
I'm trying to connect with her to interview her.
Oh, you should, for sure. She's hard to get a hold of, but I finally got a chance to just chat with her and connect a little bit.
Oh, good.
So.
And she's happy.
Yeah, she seems very happy. She has 2 kids, 2 boys, I think.
I knew that.
And I told her I wanted to send her my book, so I'm going to mail it to her.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. Sorry that we're reminiscing so much, Lauren. We'll get into
are you recording this? Are you recording?
Yeah, of course we are.
I just realized you're recording it. It's like, shit, I thought we were just getting caught up here.
Work better and save the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great title. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I loved I loved, first of all, that it pops up right on your site, but like, I got so excited. I'm a one woman company, and I want to read the book to know how to make it better.
Yeah. Well, cool. And that's the thing. I mean, we can, and actually I've got 7 case studies in there, and I do show for an individual home office, like what can you do as an individual? Everything from, because it's how we work, and how we work is often made up of habits. And we know in changing habits for whatever, recycling or buying differently or using things, sharing economy, we often have to change our habits in order to make a change. And work has always been about habits.
No longer standing over a machine.
Now, we've always gone to a place and been at a place all day, and then come home, and then that worked when you had to stand over a machine that couldn't move. But we haven't had to do that for decades because of technology and mobility, and yet we still acted as if we did. And that was the way work was designed. And so the pandemic showed us, and many people did know this beforehand, but it wasn't widely accepted, but the pandemic showed us, hey, you know what? Why are we making people commute? Why all of that gas and travel time? And actually, when you ask people, the research shows that often that is the reason they don't want to be going in that often. It's because of the commute. The commute for so many people is terrible. Yeah.
So I have a question, because I am also an interior designer, and I do a lot of programming for people. And I am hearing increasingly, not just in the work that I'm doing, but also in talking to people who work their white collar jobs, come back to work. You have to come back to work.
Oh, I hate that.
Everybody come back to work, and those that aren't saying it yet are behind closed doors saying, we're just going to wait till we have the upper hand again, and then they're going to come back to work.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's why I left the position I was in December and started a new job. The final straw was everyone has to come back to work on such and such a day, no excuses. And it was like, no excuses. I'm not giving you excuses. I'm giving you better performance. Why don't you let me continue to do that? And then the firm that I'm with now, I'm working on language with people there, because even if they accept that we'll always be a hybrid company, a design firm, there's still times when we want to have meetings in person, but we're going to be very deliberate. But still, in the everyday language, people are saying things like, how do we get people to come back to the office? As if the ultimate goal somehow is getting people back to the office. And I keep saying, well, why? Are you concerned about their performance from working at home? Are you concerned about some other aspect? Tell me why they have to be in the office. Let's talk about what the purpose is. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to be hit with that. Well, they're not going to perform as well when they're at home. They're not getting the mentoring they need when they're at home. Well, then we need to change how we mentor.
Exactly.
So we have to change how we mentor.
Exactly, Jody. You got it spot on. The thing is, before the pandemic, and Lauren, you know this as well, being in the field, people were miserable in the office. What were the top complaints? The top complaints were, I'm distracted, it's noisy, I'm interrupted, I can't find a quiet place to focus, it's too hot or too cold. These were over and over and over again. These were the complaints that we heard about. So now I have been home for 2 years and more, and I pretending to be an employee, like I have been home and I have been able to adjust my environment to what suits me. It's personalized to me. I feel comfortable here. I don't have to commute. So why would I go back to that really lousy place? You know, what? So it's the opportunity for company leaders to really question, well, what can we do differently?
Yeah.
What should we do differently? And honestly, the phrase that I've said more than the second most phrase I said, the first most phrase I've said over the last 2 years is you're on mute. And the second most often phrase is be intentional. Yeah. It's really important to be intentional. With intention, why are you asking people to come back? Plan some event of training, development, team building, connecting, social, have them make a meal together. Don't have them come to the office, go to an offsite, do something that really brings great value to your people, brings them together, lets them connect, brings great value to your people, which will actually benefit your bottom line eventually too, like some training and development.
A lot was broken.
But there were a lot of things that were broken about the office, and not just the office, the way we work. The way we work, let's face it, has been designed for a heterosexual, white male, usually middle-aged person. And the data supports this, okay? It's not just me as a feminist saying this. It is true when you look at the data of who wants to go back to the office the most, it is that demographic I just described. Who wants to go back the least? It's Black men. And then close to the Black men are women of color and women. So why do all these others not so much want to go back and the white men do? Because it's comfortable. It was their home away from home, right?
It was actually their escape, I would suggest, in a lot of cases. You have a family, but you don't necessarily have to take responsibility for familial things. And the way you can most effectively distance is by distance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued by the data that Black men are least interested in returning to the office.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, there's a whole lot behind that, I'm sure.
I'm sure there is much more. And I've got the citation where I got that as well, where I found that study. But we know, because we've heard the microaggressions that people face, code switching, having to change their language, their hair.
We've removed the blinders.
There are a lot of things that people have put up with that they're now recognizing, why did I put up with that? Mental health is the other thing. Thank God that we're talking about it more, but it's been there all along. I was at a talk a few weeks ago, and somebody in the audience, he's like, it's really, really troublesome to me to see all the issues with childcare my employees are struggling with, and this is really makes it really difficult for the company. And I was like, you know what, dude, that's been a problem all along. You're aware of it now, which is great. I'm glad you're aware of it, but it's been a problem all along. So, let's look for solutions.
We've been talking about interior design at the office. We've been talking about interior design and neurodivergence and the full spectrum of people existing in a space. And it's very interesting to me that we're in a corporate setting. Let's see, I don't know if I'm going to say this well, but in a corporate setting, there's a real challenge in creating comfortable spaces for a wide spectrum of people who react to spaces in different ways. So isn't there an added benefit that we can support people in working from home and they can control their environment? Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Figure it out.
My planet model, so Work Better, Save the Planet actually has 7 tenets to create workplaces or ways of working that are healthy, not just for the planet, healthier for the planet, but great for people. And that is one of my points, is talking about neurodiversity. It has been reported that up to 17% of the population has been diagnosed with a neurodivergent condition. So 17%. All right, so then we can think about all of those things in the workplace. The other thing we know is LGBTQ plus. Okay, let's think about folks that are left out of a basic necessity of finding a restroom that they are comfortable in. And that's never, it is more and more now, there's more awareness. But again, like
it's still a transition.
50% of LGBTQ plus people stay closeted at work. 50%. That's huge. Yeah.
How can anyone be just looking from the warped old school lens of productivity only? How can anyone be productive when they're spending energy hiding most of their psyche, most of their needs, most of their comfort level?
They can't be comfortable. Yeah. When they, bring your full self to work. Well, bring your full self to work if you're a white heterosexual man. But the rest of you, just figure it out.
Homelike?
Last year I was talking with a guy, and he said, we're making our office more home-like. And I said, who's home? Because again, think about ethnic diversity. I mean, our homes look there are, and this is the other thing, even when people are remote, there is just inequities around technology, bandwidth, backgrounds. People worry what their No, I show up, I don't worry about my background, but there are people that worry about their background because it sends a certain message that may not be, acceptable. So anyway, there's so much that can be fixed with the workplace that will be better for people. And to your point though, Jody, you mentioned people with, neurodivergent and creating spaces that feel good. A lot of the things that are good for people that are neurodiverse are good for anybody. It has to do with light and flicker and glare and noise and smells. And being aware of that and creating, being super aware of that, and then creating a variety of spaces so people have choice. A place I can go in and shut the door. It's quiet, a little focus room, but anybody can use it. It's not just for the higher mucky mucks, right?
It's anybody. Not just for the nursing mom, but it's it's, and there's enough access to enough of those spaces,
enough people.
So it's not it's not like you have to reserve it a month in advance. You have a variety of choices, and the thing is, we don't need that much space.
The Cockpit Office.
And Lauren, this, I call it the Cockpit Office. Like, what do you need? You need what you can reach, which is like no more than 6 feet, like 36 square feet.
Right.
Even a little enclosed space with a door can be like less than 50 square feet and still be very comfortable and not feel like you're in a coffin. That's the concept of less and minimalism and just what do we really need to do our best work. And we do know that when there's less visual clutter, it actually helps with concentration and less, leads to less mental clutter. So that's good to simplify, right? And pare down.
Let's do this.
So what compelled you? Was there a trigger for writing the book, or is this something you had stewing for a while, or just curious? Was there a moment where you said this has to go on paper and other people have to read it?
Yeah. And I dedicated the book to my mentor, Fritz Steele. I had read many of his books, and one in particular, Workplace by Design, had a huge influence on me in the 90s. But so here's the thing, is a few years ago, I had heard that Fritz had moved to Maine. And I'm like, oh, cool. If you're in Maine, man, I'm going to track you down. So I did. I had never reached out to him before. He didn't know me from anybody. But actually, he co-wrote Workplace by Design with Franklin Becker out of Cornell. So the two of them were co-authors. So that might be another trigger there to remember. But he was so kind and generous. I sent him an email, said, I'm one of your biggest fans. I love your work. he's like, let's have lunch. So we met in Portland. He was living in York, York. I think he was down in York. Yeah. So we met in Portland, and oh my God,
he's a great city, by the way. Great.
Yeah,
city.
great foodie city. He loves spicy hot food. And we met at a vegan, his favorite vegan restaurant, Indian restaurant here.
Vegan.
And yeah. And anyway, he ended up mentoring me on writing, and he worked with me for a few years, and I went round and around, and it's one of those, God, it's never going to be good enough. And anyway, he was a delight, absolute delightful person. And then it was February 2020, reading the paper online as I do, and read the obituaries, and there was his obituary, and I just bawled. It caught me unexpected, and
so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. But I committed then. I said, okay, we're going to get this book done, Whited. Let's do this.
Experience, data, and guilt.
And I do believe a lot of things come together with this book. I've spent my professional career in workplace design. I'm quite passionate about that. But also, as I've gotten older, I turned 60 this year, and I have 3 kids. And I do the climate change, all the data that's come out. And I think about the damage I've done professionally. Commercial office furniture, 80% of it is incinerated. We know that contributes to methane, 80%. Methane is 10 times worse than CO2 in what it does. So that's one part. So that's the commercial office. But then there's space. And 39% of emissions are due to commercial buildings. So think about this, all of the office space before the pandemic, any utilization study that you did, which is how often spaces are used, workstations and offices, any industry, any geography, any size, there's a range of 40% to 60% of the time, those spaces are empty.
Right.
So you're heating and cooling and occupying all of this space, and it's empty. Doesn't make sense. And so now the pandemic and remote work is much more acceptable, and people are like, oh, we got to come back to the office. Like, come on, man, look at the data. And then realize what that is doing to the planet. We do not need to build another single square footage of office space. If anything, we should be repurposing it as housing.
Yep.
Like,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Why do we have so many homeless? Why, there's a shortage of housing.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
Like, where's the innovative thinking about this? It's because, so many organizations say we put our people first. Our people are most important. It's like, no, put the planet first. So we have something for the people to be on. Right. And then think about your people. Put your planet first, start to think about that as your key stakeholder. And then let's start to think about what is best for the people based on what's best for the planet.
The gauntlet is down. I see that. I need to apply that. That's little wake up call for Jody right there. I'm working for a company that is quote unquote people centric, and I've been really impressed because they truly are. Yeah. But I have noticed that when you focus on staff without understanding the ramifications to the environment, that you're missing out on the most important layer of the system. So interesting. Wow.
And every decision or conversation, we can begin it there and then say, well, what should I be doing differently? And I mean, it's really fun, Jody. I've been doing some work lately. I created a planetary health workshop for corporations, for company leaders. So talking to them about, thinking again in the context of work and workplace, like I don't separate it anymore because, So planetary health as a topic, and talking about transportation, talking about alternatives, talking about habits, how we build habits. One of my favorite books. Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
No.
Oh, you got to read it. Oh my God. Brilliant. I love that guy. And Charles Duhigg also wrote The Power of Habit. Both of those are fantastic reads.
Seen that one. I've read, I don't think I've read the whole thing.
Yeah. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and then Atomic Habits by James Clear. I made all my kids read, especially the one headed off to college a couple of years ago. Like, you got to read this book. Uh, but because everything in our life really comes down to habits, and if we want to do things differently, we got to know how to unlearn things and then how to build new habits. Things like habit stacking and cue, craving, response, reward. These are,
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's good stuff.
You mentioned unlearning. Another person that I think I want to find to interview, and did we learn about him with UNERC, with the regional council, Jack Aldrich?
That name's familiar.
Jack Aldrich, he has written a couple of books about unlearning.
Oh, cool.
And he's a speaker on unlearning. Look him up. He's really impressive.
It's time for some emotional intelligence.
There's a safety in that openness to creativity and the soft skills.
Yeah. And it's staying curious. It's really just people being curious and not always going in thinking they have the right answer, and open mind. Those are nice qualities. Collaborative.
I think that I don't know. I think that women tend to foster more teamwork than maybe others.
I wonder why that is. Is that a cultural heritage, or is it truly female energy?
Well, it's the feminine. I think it's the feminine, just based on the research I did. It's the feminine look for relational communication style. Like we're looking to find commonalities. It's something that we do. Mm-hmm. And whereas masculine energy is often taught to one up each other and try to outdo the other and be the smartest in the room, or the most. Again, so here I am, the mother of 2 boys and 1 girl. And as a mother, it's like one of my most important jobs to help my boys break that, cycle and tradition. So far, I think I've done pretty well. They're pretty awesome kids.
Equity is for all.
Even with design and architecture, there's so much work to be done. We can all succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
If we, and your point about neurodivergence and a lot of the considerations in making spaces comfortable for a wide spectrum aren't exclusionary of creating greater comfort for everybody.
For everybody. Yeah.
I mean, justice doesn't deny justice to anyone.
Yeah.
I think those are fascinating concepts that should be applied and not just conceptual.
Right.
Nudity for meetings. Wait, what?
The company Stalled, STALLED, and they're designed for gender neutral restrooms or gender inclusive restrooms, that for public restrooms, right?
Yeah.
And aren't these a great design? I mean, they have full doors, privacy, really wonderful. Well, there I am in Amsterdam at the venue, and that it wasn't that actual design, but it was a combined gender combined restrooms, and they were no issue, no big deal. You just go in, privacy, wash your hands, boom, like no big deal. And
awesome.
But our country, seriously, like God, when I bring this up to, I had several years ago at a CEO, I'm like, I broached the subject for their new office space. I'm like, this is a solution that would make. Oh my God, you might as well, I might as well have, I don't know, said what, but he just
said, said nudity for meetings.
Yeah, he just like, no. Like,
I think that's fantastic. You just walk in. What I also love about most stalls in Europe, and I lived in the Netherlands for a little while. What I love is that not only that they have full walls and doors and everything, but that there's a little, when you lock the door, someone on the outside can see that the stall is occupied.
Right.
And that's really amazing, because every time I walk into a restroom in the US, I'm leaning down to see if someone's feet are down there.
Yeah.
And actually I was in a bathroom once where somebody was leaning down to see feet, and the door flew open and they ended up with a cut on their forehead. Because the timing was just impeccably wrong.
Yeah.
But talk about avoiding.
Yeah.
We're so risk averse, and yet we do stupid things like make situations where people have to look upside down underneath the door.
Like it's completely poor design. And we've been replicating it over and over and over and over again.
P.L.L.A.N.E.T.
what are your hopes at this point for your work, your career, the reception of the book?
Oh, thanks.
What do you envision?
Well, Jody, I wrote the book with leaders in mind, really business leaders in mind, wanting them to read it. And so my hope is that more business leaders read it. And I define a leader as not just a title. You can be in any position within a company and be a leader. I give a process on how you can implement some of these things. It's very pragmatic. It's not all up in theory, and it's backed up with the data and the research. So it's a very pragmatic book. And then I did write a case study for each of the 7 tenets. So, they spell planet with 2 L's. So it's purpose, language, less, ask, net zero, equity, and time. And so the point is, you always have to clarify purpose. Why are we doing this? Like you said, why are you making me come back to the, like, why? What's our why? And then language, the words we choose to describe, it's so important. So we all need to be aligned. What are our words and what are we talking about? And let's get aligned on that. Less, minimalism, using less of everything. P.L.L.A. ask. And ask is inviting people into the conversation with intention. So many times in change, it's just certain people, the higher upper echelon or the managers, but your frontline people are most impacted. They've got to be invited into the conversation. And I'm a really big believer in all voices need to be heard in any change. And I work like a dog to make sure all voices are heard. And is net zero, which Mark Buckley told me I should change to net positive. So I'm working on that. And then E is equity. And that's because of, again, how work has been designed. It's been work as a process has been very narrow. And so if you really care about DEI, which so many said they did after George Floyd was murdered, of course, we haven't seen much other than people adding it to their values statements. But if, this is really, again, with intention, you can create an equitable place, an equitable way of working. And T is time, because, man, this is the time. Why else would we have this crazy, insane global pandemic? Why else but because, hey, wake up call, planet here, come come on, man, pay attention to the planet. I don't know anything else that could have impacted how we work more than what we've gone through with this pandemic. Like everybody in the whole planet, what's the purpose?
Right. And if you're, I'm not practicing a religion, but I feel like I'm a spiritual person and connected to nature and a lot of our lessons. And I really have always believed that things happen, maybe not for a predestined purpose, but for a purpose we can discover if we're actually paying attention.
So who should we convince?
I wouldn't try to convince anybody. I would be looking for the people with the open mind that want to say, what can we do better? Yeah. Those are my people, because that's where I want to spend my energy, helping the ones that are already like, yep, I'm in. What can I do differently? What can I do better? Because Jody, here's the good news. Here's the good news about all this. So you think you need a majority to make change? Social change, we only need 25%. That 25% becomes the tipping point and the others join. Okay. So I'm looking for the 25% that have the open mind, that are curious. They want to learn more and want to know what they can do differently, want to know what they can do better. Let's build that momentum there. Right.
That's great.
And then we get the others coming along, because what's going to happen? It's the war on talent. And I don't care if people talk about a recession coming or whatever, but if you've got the company that's thinking this way and more forward, they're going to, especially younger people, we know they're passionate about climate change, right? Regardless of political party, younger people are passionate about climate change. So if you're focused on the future and work in the workforce, I want my 25%. I am not going to waste my time talking to somebody and trying to convince them to do something different. I'm not going to waste my energy. I don't have enough left.
That's fair. I actually don't believe that last statement that you don't have enough left, but I do absolutely agree with the fact that we focus where we can make the movement, because movement actually creates momentum, and momentum will make the shift.
The lone nut.
You've seen the video of the lone nut? You seen the video of the
No.
lone
Oh
nut?
yes, the
Yes, you
dancer.
want the dancer, the lone nut.
like,
yeah.
That's me.
That's right.
Now I have to look it up.
Oh yeah,
look up
you'll
the
find
lone
it.
nut.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
classic, and the point of that is actually it's not the lone nut that's important. It's the second person
It's a second person. Yeah,
that comes in,
yeah.
because that changes the whole dynamic.
Then others join. So Lauren, it's a TED Talk. A guy made a great TED Talk. So look TED Talk lone nut, and you'll find it. It's wonderful.
Right.
Contracts and commitment.
I'm so interested about how you engage with people and how you. It sounds like you allow the space for people to come to you, but that might be some people in organizations, but it's certainly not all. So how do you kind of have the rest of that discussion? So I think that there's more to be discussed personally.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to talk more. And I do, I design a very specific contract on when I share my approach, and I say to the, and I always want to, it's in my contract, I have to have a one-on-one with the CEO before I will start the engagement. And it's almost like I'm interviewing them to make sure that we're a good fit.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have a
That's
CEO
awesome.
who's aligned with my approach, it's all for naught, save your
Yeah.
money. But I tell that person, which I've had a few that are female, so that's pretty cool. But I tell the CEO that I believe in all employee engagement. And that means we're not just doing a survey. I'm going to do focus groups. And I will do
Excellent.
focus groups until the cows come home. And I will, with Zoom and with Teams, you can do hundreds.
Right.
And I do it, and I do small breakouts, and it's very intentionally designed. I think about the human behavior and the psychology and how we engage. It's very efficient. It's not like, can be less than an hour. But that's a requirement. And if they're like, no, you don't need to talk to everybody, just get it done. I'm like, no, don't hire me.
Yeah, you don't
So,
understand.
Yeah.
Getting something wrong done isn't going to help you at all.
No,
Right.
no, not going to help you. Yeah.
Wavy CV. That's normal.
I've got a very varied, interesting CV and path of my life, but
All the
yeah.
best CVs do that.
Yeah.
How can you really? I mean, I honestly think that sustainability is probably another wave of Renaissance thinking, where everything's connected, and anyone can study anything they want and be. It's not. We went through a whole siloed phase, and I'm blowing that right out of the water. Generalist and aware of the connections, and taking things from math that apply to art, whatever works.
Yeah. Makes it
It
makes it a richer and more interesting existence. That's for sure.
Let's hear about Lisa's hero.
I guess it's really tough because it feels like they're dead.
That's okay.
Okay. I
There's
loved
ways to still become familiar with them that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, people who have inspired me, Ken Robinson, who's all about education, E.O. Wilson, and of course, my mentor Fritz Steele and he's wrote 12 books.
Great.
Oh gosh,
Prolific. Wow.
yeah, he was. Oh yeah, he was one of the original with Edward Schein, the organizational development guys out of MIT. He taught. I mean, this guy was just the best. Trying to think.
I'm so
I don't
sorry
know, look at my books, but thank you. He
No,
was a
that's
dear.
good.
Yeah.
I'm so. This is touching on the circle of life. I'm so sorry that he's no longer here. I'm really pleased that you not only were inspired by him, but had the courage to reach out to him and connect with him and learn from him directly. That's a beautiful thing. A lot of people stay in what they perceive as their lane and don't reach out to people that inspire them. And I applaud that. I think that takes great courage. So
Thanks, Judy.
good job.
Thank you.
And he lives on in that relationship. So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing.
And what focus?
I am a big believer in purpose. I really am a big believer in purpose. And I think that if people were given the space to think about why they're here and what difference they want to make, and have the space to think about that and permission. I think there are some of us that just naturally do that. But I don't think a lot of people do. So purpose, I think I would just come back to that. Because we
That's
are here for a
beautiful.
purpose, right? We're here for a purpose.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I like the way
wanna
you
ask
said that.
one follow-up
space.
question to that.
Okay, yeah.
So when I was doing my research on you, I found this kind of interesting. It was interesting to me. 80% of people worldwide are disengaged at work.
Yeah.
Do you think that that has to do with the microaggressions that you talk about? Do you think it has to do with the lack of purpose? Like, why are 80% of people worldwide disengaged?
Disengaged. Okay. And that has not changed. That's a Gallup poll statistic. It's barely changed for the more than 20 years that they've been measuring. You know, it's 77% or 80 or 82. It's just barely changed. In the US, it's like maybe around 66%. And again, up and down, slight little bit. Like, despite all of the focus that people and organizations say, Jody, like, oh, we're people focused and people first. And then how come that engagement score has not changed? What is, there is a mismatch, Lauren. That's what I think, that there is a real mismatch between people having the opportunity to think about their purpose and find purpose-driven work that engages them, and they're fighting against a system that has defined what work looks like, again, for a very narrow segment. And I have not looked at that data lately by diversity and demographic. That would be interesting to dig into. Who's the most high, highly engaged versus those that are less engaged. And I would guess that there's probably, we'd start to see some trends around age and gender and ethnicity, right? We'd probably see that. So and you know what do they say? What's the definition of insanity? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So what's going on with this Gallup poll that there's just not been any change?
Free to love your work.
I'm wondering if it's because work has become what we do to get food on the table as opposed to what brings us joy, and we will do anything to get food on the table. And I'm being very flip about that. I don't have that challenge. I'm very happy in my work, and I also am successful in it. But I think that the whole structure is based around the fact that we don't pay people enough, and they have to work so hard to have security because the systems don't support us in another way. So there's a book called Humankind. No, wait, it's Utopia for Realists.
Okay.
Have you heard of this book?
I have not.
Okay.
Writing it down.
You, above all else, should read.
All right. All right. I'll be buying that one tonight. Okay.
It's by Rutger Bregman. And he also has a book called Humankind, which is about systems thinking related to that. But Utopia for Realists is about, the universal living wage, give it to everyone, free people up to do what their passion is. And that changes the entire relationship to work. So it's about understanding that. So,
and here's why that matters. It's because this is what my definition, the ripple effect of work. So if you're, as a person, more engaged, get more joy, how will you treat your family when you are with them, your neighbors, your community? This is the importance of work. I mean, this is why I am so passionate about thinking about work, because I do believe it's an essential thing that we do, and it has a capacity of truly changing dynamics around community and happiness and wellness. Yeah.
Thanks for joining Laura, Lisa, and I on Subject to Change.
I have so much enjoyed our time.
Yes,
Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Love seeing you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. God, it's great to see you. Absolutely. So thank you for inviting me.
All right, we'll talk again soon. And we'll
All
let
right,
you know
take
when
care.
we post it.
Yeah.
Yes, please do. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.